Hello, my name is Kai, and I am a bit of a rambler. Welcome to Ramble On, where I just talk about what happened this week. Starting with pickled vegetables. I am actually going to do a whole talk on pickled vegetables because I've always liked them, but I want to talk about them now because I finally made pickled vegetables for the first time ever, which is crazy because, as I've mentioned, I've tried so many hobbies and lifestyles out with all the time I had because I was teaching English. And I never tried to pickle anything. And it's crazy because it's easy. You can, ferment and pickle stuff naturally, all that kind of stuff. But you can also slip slap real easy pickle stuff, half water, half some kind of acid, salt and sugar. Done. 10 minutes later, pickled vegetables. 1 day later, even better pickled vegetables. 2 days later, decadent pickled vegetables. Ugh, wait, you know what? One time I actually used old pickle juice to try to make pickled vegetables or pickles. I bought a cucumber, cut it up, put it in old pickle juice, and then left it in, and they came out gray and spongy, and I was like, oh, okay, I guess you can't do that. You can do that. Mine probably just had a bacterial infection because that's super common apparently with pickling if you don't do it correctly, which I just cut up stuff and threw it in old pickle juice without doing anything. But now I've been doing it for, I don't know, several days, a week now, and I boil my water firsthand. I mix in the salt and acid and sugar, and then the pickles work and taste great. I thought it was so weird that I hadn't tried pickling any vegetables because I love pickles, and every country does pickles differently. Like in Southeast Asia, it's very common to pickle fruits like mangoes, and you get pickled mango. In a lot of places, they pickle cucumber, but kind of differently than Westerners do it. Westerners obviously love pickling onions or cucumbers. Korean, obviously cabbage for kimchi. But pickled vegetables are so good. They add such a depth of flavor with just some shots of acid into anything. So I've always loved pickles. And then I was talking about pickling stuff and how good some pickles I had were. And I was like, why the heck haven't I pickled anything yet? So thanks, YouTube. Saw a video. You can do it in 5 minutes. So I tried it. I made pickled white onion, green onion, carrots, potatoes in 5 minutes. I didn't have any sugar on me, so I used these candies that I had, and it turned out so good. Even after 10 minutes, I was like, holy this tastes like a pickle. This is straight up a pickle. Every single little thing. The potatoes I didn't wash, so they still had starch on them, but I put them on all my sandwich. I put them on everything I ate that day, and after doing that a couple more times, onions are definitely my favorite, and I pickled a whole white onion, and then I pickled a bunch of red onions, and the red onions have an even better depth of flavor. So good. I threw them in with some curry I made today. So if you don't know how to pickle, go watch the YouTube videos and you like pickles, now you can pickle literally anything you want, and it takes 5 minutes. You cut up the vegetable, you heat up, half acid, half water, just gauge half the jar that you have, just fill it up half with water, dump that in a frying pan, fill it half up with vinegar, white vinegar is what I use, dump that in a frying pan, add in salt and a little bit of sugar, couple tablespoons of salt, teaspoon of sugar, or whatever balance you think you'll like. I like less sugar. Mix that up. Once it's simmering, pour that into the jar with the chopped up vegetables that you're going to use. Let it cool down to room temperature so that the jar lid won't get stuck after you put it in the refrigerator. Boom, pickles. And they do taste that good. Oh, pickles. Pickles. Oh, pickles. Really glad I decided to try that. And again, flabbergasted that I haven't tried to make pickles yet. So I had a goodbye dinner to the apartment I've been staying in Guatemala for most of the time I've been there, and I had a big pickled vegetable that they make in Guatemala called escabeche, and they did pickled onions, I think. No, they did pickled radish, I think. So I had a bunch of pickled radish and a jalapeno and a whole bunch of carnitas, and it was really, really, really good. And I tried to go to all of the places, all the restaurants that I really like before I left that apartment. So there's this pizza place that's great, and I just got a large ham pizza, threw some vegetables on it at home because I had fresh onions, and it was delicious. Had some beer with that. I haven't had any beer in a while, so kind of having a party week right now, I guess. And then I went to this crepe guy who makes the best Nutella crepes, and just half Nutella and no Hershey syrup, which is usually on it. So there's just a little bit of sugar and then a whole bunch of bananas and strawberries and just a super great crepe. Get a big old fruit kick and a hamburger and just but they make hamburgers very different in Guatemala. They're a lot thinner, a lot softer, and there's a lot more stuff inside, like vegetables and whatnot. So it, for me, tastes way better than just a fat hunk of ground meat. Yeah, so I had a whole bunch of good foods. Ooh, and I got some mandarin limon ice cream again from my ice cream guy. But then the day before I left, I was going to get 2 scoops of mandarin, and they were all out, and none was coming in until Monday. And I was like, all right, thank you very much for your service, my friends. Because I've been eating ice cream there for like 3 months. And that's a nice little neighborhood. Like, I walked around that neighborhood literally every day. I like the markets out there. I like all the people out there. I like that it's higher up than the rest of the city, so I can kind of look down on the rest of Guatemala City. But I got to make my way to Shela, so I'm going to stay in the city for a little bit, then jump on a bus and head over to Quetzaltenango and see what it looks like 1,000 meters higher than Guatemala City. And I was going to go to Ecuador after, as I may have mentioned, but boy, it really does seem more dangerous than is worth the risk right now. Like express kidnappings, which is where you hail a taxi and then they just drive you away somewhere until you're isolated and mug you. Pretty common these days. So I'm looking at other countries. I'll see the safety list and then see what tickets look affordable and head out to somewhere. I'm thinking of the Yucatan right now in Mexico, because that's the safer part of Mexico in the southeast. And it's kind of wacky that I started my travels from the US, kind of, and I didn't end up in either Canada or Mexico yet after traveling for so long. I really want to go to Canada. Maybe that's what I'll do. Maybe I'll chill out in Mexico for a while, and then it'll be summer in Canada so I can see all the nice stuff before it's frozen over. Like, sort of take it from there. Oh, I found someone's business card when I was cleaning out my wallet that has been there since India. Everybody was so nice to me in India, and I got a lot of business cards, but I only had one left. So if any of you need a personal fitness coach, and you happen to be in Bhubaneswar in India, near Atala Road, contact Lalithendu Patra, because that dude was jacked, and he seemed like a really nice guy. And he gave me his business card, so I was like, hey, why not shout it out here? Some people in India are listening, my friends in India, and I hope they hear this, and go hit up Lilutilin. I was really bad at Hindi when I was in India, and after I left India, I was even worse. Oh, my tamales with rice, which are my favorite tamales in Guatemala. I had to get a few of those, and I ended up just getting 4 of them and freezing them, so I'm taking them with me so that I can cook them for the next week until I get to Quetzaltenango. Oh, and I tried tacos for the first time from this place where I got the tamales and rice, and the tacos were so good and fully loaded with a scoop of pickled vegetables and regular diced vegetables and lettuce and some cheese and guacamole. Like, they were fully loaded great tacos. The tacos in Guatemala, interestingly, are not open. They are rolled like flautas, but all tacos in Guatemala are rolled up before they're fried. So they're tubes of food, and they're a lot easier to handle than US American tacos or any open tacos because they're more compact, but they have basically the same amount of food. They like shove everything in there. It's pretty great. But I'm really bummed I never tried these tacos from that place before because they were totally delicious and very fancy and elegant. And I knew a lot of people went there for a lot of different foods. I did get a chili relleno from there also. They have a lot of the typical domestic local fare, and all of their food is great. And there's that restaurant in particular always has so many locals eating there every single day of the week that they're open. So I knew they were good, but there's another spot, and they sell on the street like their tacos, and they also have a huge spread of toppings that you can add yourself, including escabeche, the pickled vegetables. So I always went there instead. But I should have just branched out. Why not eat everywhere? But it's not like I'm not going to get another chance to try good tacos while I'm in Guatemala, Quetzaltenango, Shela. Oh, and I haven't talked about potato chips. It's really funny. They have potato chips here in Guatemala, but they're called chips. Like the brand name is CHIPS chips, just the regular word chips. And they have natural flavor or original jalapeno and barbecue flavor. But it's really funny. I thought it was so funny that I saw they were just called chips. And then I bought it back because that was a funny name. And they're the best potato chips in the country I've had so far. And I tried pretty much every different brand they have. But what I like about the chips is that they are actually crunchy. Like they're thick slices of real potato. They're not whatever Lay's makes, which seems to be like mashed potatoes smashed into patties and then baked or something. So you just have a really crumbly chip that isn't crunchy at all. These chips seem to be slices of actual potato fried with flavor. And the jalapeno is probably my favorite, but they're all pretty good. So if you like potato chips or you want some Western snacks while you're in Guatemala, I highly recommend chips. They're great. I had a funny thought to do a live stream in different countries, but like actually a stream, like a small river, and I just take a video of that for an hour and then put that on TikTok. But I definitely don't have the inclination to post a lot of videos. I just like that idea that I could claim I was doing live streams and then someone would go to my channel and it would just be picture or videos of streams in different countries. Every time I came across a stream, I would take a video of it for some amount of time and then post that. Seems really funny, but, kind of impractical. Not like the rest of my life, which is super practical and, business oriented, productivity. I am jumping back into video games because The Last of Us 2 was so much fun. And I haven't played any in a while. Oh, of course, I decided to jump back into the games right after I got rid of my USB controller that plugs in and functions with my laptop perfectly. So I have to use my mouse and keyboard, but playing some really fun games. Played The Invincible. You're a stranded astronaut on the planet. Have to find everybody else. Very pretty game. It's basically just a visual novel or, a more upscale visual novel because there's a whole world to walk around in. But it's based on a book called The Invincible, and you get to play through the book, which is really fun. It's a good book. I assume. I haven't read the book. It was a good story. And I'm also jumping back into Subnautica because I started playing it, and for whatever reason, I didn't like it. But it's consistently like 10 out of 10. Everybody absolutely loves that game. And it seems like a game that I would love because you're just underwater building stuff all the time. And there's cool plant life and animal life all around and geology. It just seems like my kind of thing. So I started playing it again and loved it. And I was like, yeah, of course. And I played it for 2 hours before and didn't like it. But I don't know, maybe I was hungover or something and I was just not giving it a chance. Didn't really get into it. I don't know. But I'll definitely keep playing it. I got waylaid by Ghost of Tsushima, which is another one of those games that everybody has been talking about for a decade. And I was like, well, then I'm not going to play it. And then they're all right. It's a really great game. The design and mechanics are so well done. They're so efficient. It feels very natural to play. And I really like how they put in quest markers and unobtrusively with the environment allow you to follow quest markers or hints or anything like that. Very fun, very beautiful game. My only problem is that they put so much emphasis on how samurai protect the normal people. Like, that's the whole thing that's the point of the game. They just keep reiterating how the whole point of samurai is to protect the innocent and, like, do all these good deeds. But in real life, that wasn't much what the samurai were all about. They were the aristocracy, and they took advantage of that power very, very often. But the fighting in the game is so much fun. They did a great job developing the melee fighting, and it's not like I get angry at other games for not being realistic, what with them being games. So I just try and push that out of my head whenever they're like, the honorable samurai who always protects innocents. I'm just like, no, but let's keep playing because I'm having a great time. And there's a great quest where you're fighting archers, and so there'll be like 12 archers on a ledge, and you're supposed to shoot at them with your bow to prove your archery skills in the game. But I really like the melee fighting system so much, and the archery system is not as fun for me because I just shoot someone and then they fall over and they're dead. But doing the melee, I have to dodge in many different ways to succeed. So if there's 12 archers on a cliff across a bridge that they're defending, I'll just sprint across the bridge as far as I can, climb the whole cliff because I love climbing in video games too. Don't like doing it in real life because it's terrifying. But I really like climbing in video games like Breath of the Wild or Ghost of Tsushima. So I'll spend time climbing up a cliff and then just cut down all these archers with my sword. It's a really fun time. You know, I always like books more than movies, and so that's why I wasn't sure if I was going to play The Invincible. But then when I'm living it, that's what's so good about books. That's what I like about books more than movies. There's so much more content in a book compared to a movie, and you're so much more active inside a book than you are inside a movie watching these other people. In a book, it's so much easier to connect those events to yourself, or at least it's much easier for me to connect the events to myself rather than in a movie. And The Invincible is really interesting because I got those benefits from the video game. I spent probably as much or more time in the video game than I would have even spent reading the book. And I'm sure the book would have been so well written that I would have enjoyed my time within the story, and I would have connected even more probably with the book. But the video game was certainly more engaging than a movie would have been, or even a TV show, because as long as you can make a TV show, they're probably going to put in filler. TV shows. I just watched a Kino no Tabi episode, and I didn't realize how much filler it had the first time I watched it, but there's this one story they stretched into 2 stories for the TV show, and after I had read the book, it was obvious how much filler they had done to stretch out this story, probably just because it's exciting and there's more fighting in it. But just don't do filler. If you have a movie and it's perfect or very satisfying to watch at 70 minutes, and you can stretch it to 90, don't stretch it to 90. Put out a good 70-minute movie that people will remember instead of a 100-minute movie that nobody wants to be there for. So back to The Invincible. I was worried because it was a book I wouldn't enjoy it because I prefer books to movies, but video games are so much more immersive and they have so much more content than a movie could possibly have. Because you're spending 10, 30, 40 hours, 100, 300 in the case of Morrowind and myself, hours inside this world. So I gave The Invincible a shot, and I'm really glad I did. It was a good story, and I was invested in it as much as I would have been in a book. Maybe not as much, but much more than I would have been in a movie, which has such a brief time frame. And I did want to play those games with a controller. I went to a bunch of different stores looking for a controller, another USB controller in Guatemala, but they just don't have the tech that Asia has. So all the controllers felt very light, and half of the buttons couldn't map properly. Like half the time I could bind the trigger to a function in the game, and half the time it just wouldn't bind. So I tried a couple out in stores, but didn't find one that worked. And my perfect controller, that is purple, my favorite color, is just sitting on a desk not doing shit. Where I left it behind because I didn't want bulk in my bag, and now I regret it, and I apologize, purple controller. I have another short note here about Last of Us 2, but I don't know. I feel like I said everything about Last of Us 2. I'm so glad I avoided all of the spoilers, and then I got to play the game, and it was so good. Yeah, having fun with video games lately. Can you tell, since this entire thing was about food or video games? Right before I left my neighborhood, I was walking out of the neighborhood, and there was an open window, and there's a huge mural that says Real Misco. Misco is the name of the neighborhood. It's like, this is the center of the neighborhood. And then out of the window directly above the mural, Take On Me, right at the part, In a Day or Two, was playing out of the window of Real Misco, like this Norwegian synth pop song playing. It was pretty great. Just a great juxtaposition of globalization through music. Also, let me dump on AI for a minute, just because I finally came around to AI is a real pain in the butt. I was hoping it would get better faster than this. And I feel for like 2 months, I was asking the AI assistants questions and they were giving me good answers with sources. And it just seems like they keep getting worse. Until now, you can't trust them to tell you anything correctly. They just agree with your question instead of giving any proper search result for the question. All of them are getting real bad. Bing was the one I used for like 2 months, and it gave sources with the questions, and I was like, hey, real information with sources. And now they all just say the same thing. Yes, dragons could bake cakes, although there is some debate today whether or not dragons are real. Or all of the promises that the next one is going to be completely realistic. It sounds so much like a 4-year-old telling you a story. And it's like, I swear to God, okay, it's gonna get really good right now. So anyway, then I was sitting under a tree for like 3 hours, and then, okay, no, wait. The next part's so good. Okay, then I was like walking along in a park for like 3 hours. No, wait, the next part's so good. Like they keep promising you're gonna have a realistic AI assistant. And you don't. You have this irritating thing that you have to speak to, not only specifically and accurately, but now you have to jump through all the hoops of the sensors and proper ways to address the AI assistant or it won't understand your question. You have to be really careful about politics and science. Not that you should be asking them any scientific questions anyway, but boy, do they all just seem like trash now. Okay, you know what? I did like the one I got from Llama, local Llama. You can download an AI assistant basically and run it on your computer yourself. So I do have that on my Linux computer, but I like that because it doesn't pretend to be a human. It is very clearly an AI assistant, and it just answers your questions and then shuts up. All these other AI assistants are like, what do you think? It's like, shut up, man. You're not even asking me that. You're not fooling anybody. And maybe they are fooling enough people that it's worth it to develop these things, but I don't think so. It definitely seems like AI assistant development teams are desperate for more attention and funding, so they just keep swearing that the next one is going to be a true assistant. The next one's going to be like Jarvis in Iron Man. I don't want Jarvis in my devices. So if you're going to get one, get Local Llama. You can run on your own computer. Your input is still sent back to the centralized server, but it's as anonymized as you can get with one of these AI assistants. And it does give pretty good answers, except, you know what the huge problem with Llama is that it also doesn't provide any sources. And I know that because I checked, what is your source for this? Some very basic thing. I can't remember, like, how does volume work and whatever. And it just made up sources. It just gave me real-looking URLs that I put in that were not real web pages. Didn't go anywhere. They sounded real. They sounded like real.coms with slashes at the end and water volume metrics, but none of it was real. It couldn't give me the actual sources. So I don't even use Llama anymore. But I don't have much cause to use AI assistants anyway. Literally the timer and reminder functions on my phone are so much more useful than an AI assistant has ever been so far. Local Llama got close. I was writing something, and I asked it for synonyms, and it's pretty good at that. If I ask it to list all synonyms, I get a pretty good list of synonyms. But that's the most help I've ever got out of using an AI. Everything else, timer, reminder function, works great. Okay, I got to bash AI as well. You know, I had a parking spot in my apartment, and I had a parking spot the whole time, but I could never use it because there was always a gray car parked in my parking spot. There were other spots, so I just took other people's spots. But it was weird that they kept telling me, yeah, that one's your spot. And I'd be like, oh, there's that same gray car. And I'd keep sending them pictures. And whenever I did that, they just didn't answer me. Just had a guy parked in my spot. They told me to park there. Then didn't offer any remedy or solution. This Airbnb was not great with communication. But it didn't really matter because I mostly like to be left alone anyway, and everything worked, like the water and everything was clean and all of that. It was just whenever I did have a question, I assumed they wouldn't answer, and that was correct. They did not. Oh, you know what was cool this week? I found a pool bar, like billiards pool, and there were a bunch of people playing, and I had walked by that place 100 times because it was on the way to the rice tamale place I really like, and I finally peered inside and saw a bunch of pool tables and a little bar, and I went inside, got a beer, sat down, and watched a couple games of pool, and a couple guys were really good. I didn't end up playing because I was just walking around that night hanging out, but it was cool having a Gallo, the local popular beer, and watching people play pool for a while, and it felt a lot like when I used to go to pool halls in high school and college before the anti-smoking regulations kicked in. There was a lot of people were smoking, and it was all like faux wood paneling, and there were posters and pictures of hot half-naked chicks on all the walls. And it was just a fun scene to be in a dive bar again, which had exited my life a very long time ago. And here one was in my little neighborhood in Misco, Guatemala. And 100%, I appreciate the no smoking bars way better, but I just had fun with the nostalgia for a few minutes while drinking a beer. You know what, real quick, there's another food I want to add called Choco Krispies, and you can get chocolate-dipped fruits, and then they put Cocoa Krispies on top. And the first time I heard and tried Choco Krispies, I was like, ooh, what an interesting, novel, crunchy, sweet treat. Independently developed by this Guatemalan grandma. And then I realized it was just chocolate-dipped fruits with Choco Krispies, chocolate Krispies, Cocoa Krispies they're called, sprinkled on top of it so they all stuck out on it. And I still thought, oh, what a new novel treat, because it tasted great and it was really fun. And yeah, that was another one of my favorite Misco treats I had to grab before I left the neighborhood. Oh wait, there is another one. Donuts. There's so many bakeries like everywhere in Guatemala. And some people make donuts better than others. And I was walking by this great donut place, and they brought out a steaming tray of donuts that they had just put the chocolate frosting on 10 seconds ago. And when I picked it up, it was still warm and delicious. And it was a great time. So that's the last snack I have to talk about. My last barrio snack. A chocolate donut. I was getting weird feedback for a minute there, so if you can hear any weird feedback in this episode, feedback some would say, properly, let me know at bitofarambler@gmail.com or all the socials, bitofarambler, all one word, and I will talk to you with a real-ass episode in the next one, with a topic that I remember, and you can listen to, on Wednesday. Thank you very much for listening, and I'll talk to you soon.